right now. I don't know if I've ever seen you turn that red. Yeah. That's just Monty being worried about your job. You're right here. All right, welcome Hornet fans to Hornets Live, presented by American Pie Pizza. I say thanks for joining us here at American Pie Pizza. A good crowd of folks that are here. Maybe a bit surprised at the loudness coming from over here. We got a nice little birthday party over there, but we say happy birthday to the folks, whoever the young man's celebrating a birthday over there. So happy birthday. And I was telling you, I think we were talking about it before. I said that is the way you do a birthday party. Come to American Pie Pizza on a Monday when the kids eat free. Bring all the kids. And that's a nice inexpensive birthday present, and they get to play on the games over here. So pretty good choice there by mom and dad for sure.
Absolutely, good planning.
Absolutely. So they got slammed over here, so we're waiting on our pizza, and but we're gonna try some wings. We're gonna have a nice little assortment of wings here in a few minutes. I think we're gonna do the Alfredo chicken pizza. So looking forward to having all of that, and being able to chomp down on some food while we talk a little basketball. But we're going to recap a week, a 1-1 week. It's hard to say that. We haven't been able to say a loss in a long time. So, unfortunately, they come every now and again, and we got one last week. But welcome, Coach, and how's it going this evening?
Doing well. Thank you.
Good. So, first question, and I already kind of know the answer to this, but did you get a chance to have enjoy some family time during the ice days?
It was fantastic, much needed. Came at the right time, and me and the boys. I've got a third grader and a first grader. We had a really good time sledding.
Yeah. So I did see some video, and I think my only question is: has Horton come to you yet to update your contract to have some sort of safety clause? Because I saw a couple of trees that just about took you out on that trip down that hill.
No, we were just trying to add to the excitement. It got boring going down the middle of the fairway the entire time, so I decided to make a turn and keep it interesting.
It's like your real golf swings. That was your practicing.
Yeah.
Slice,
yeah.
Wasn't bad. So, well, man, all right, let's recap. We'll take a few minutes to recap last week. As I said, 1-1 week. Lost our first game after winning 10 straight with a 53-32 loss to Parkview.
Yep.
Just a tough one. Just a tough one. Nothing more you can say.
Yep.
Just a
all
tough
around
one.
Bad.
And so, so after all the hype, I did think we had a really good crowd at the Hornets Fest. I thought we had a good group of people. We were obviously competing against another big game in the state that night that went a little better than ours. It was a very, very competitive game over there at North Little Rock. But a tough one, as it was all Parkview really early from the outset of that game.
Yeah, they set the tone early. They really got after us, and we did not shoot the ball well. I think last I looked, we were 1 of 11 from the three-point line and below 40% from two. And you're not going to beat anybody shooting that poorly, and definitely not one of the best teams in the state.
Yeah, and I think in the first half, I think we talked about it. I think Carl only had 1 point in that first half. I mean, it was a tough first half for everybody, not just Carl. Everybody really struggled. But it seemed like from the beginning, your guys had a really tough time dealing with their length, whether it was defensively, whether it was getting rebounds, whether it was just getting in the passing lanes. They seemed to be their length, which they're obviously a very lengthy athletic team, and it seemed like that was kind of an issue for your guys there throughout the first half.
Yes, sir. They, like I said, they're one of the top 2 teams in the state, 2 or 3 teams in the state. They, they've got everything you could want. You know, they're super athletic. Like you said, they have the length. They're definitely a defensive first team. A lot of their offense comes from their defense. And they, as athletic as they are, kind of like you said with the rebounds, that's what I told the guys before, in the locker room. I said, you're not going to jump with them. You're going to have to block out. You're going to have to be fundamental tonight. This isn't one of those games where you can just go out athlete somebody because they're better athletically than us.
Yeah, and they showed it, unfortunately, in that first half. And after the first quarter, we found ourselves down 25-9. And at that point, you could tell the frustration level was growing for your team. It's just shots weren't falling. You talked about it. We shot really abysmally in the first half, even on open shots. Nothing seemed to want to go. A lot of really uncharacteristic turnovers. What was the message to the team after the first period of play, being down 25-9? Probably the first time they've experienced that, really, since the Bentonville game for sure.
Yeah, well, when your shot's not falling, especially if you're, when you are a scorer, you kind of start pressing a little bit. You start, every shot feels more pressure, and these guys are competitors, and they put that on themselves. They have a high expectation for themselves, just like the coaches have for them. And when they do have an uncharacteristic turnover or a missed open shot or something like that, it's the next time it's like, man, I can't do that again. I've got to make the good pass, or got to make this shot, and then you just it just kind of snowballs, and that's what happened. And at halftime, we talked about you've got to relax, you've got to take care of the ball, and and we told them, we said, we're not going to shoot this bad for another half. Like we're just not. And so if we'll take care of the ball and continue to, because we were, like you said, we were getting good shots. I mean, some of them were a little forced, but when I went back and watched the film, I mean, we had open looks. They just didn't fall. And that's what I told them. I said, second half, our shots are going to start falling. And I said, if we're making shots, then we're able to get back and get our defense set, force them to have to score in the half court against a defense, not just get out in transition and go get layup and dunk and all that. And that's what they feed off of. And then kind of going along with what you said earlier, the rebounds, keeping them off the glass. Don't let them get 3 and 4 shots a possession. Limit them to 1 shot. And I felt like we came out with a good spunk in the second half and tried to make a little bit of a run. So they settled down and just started playing basketball.
Yeah, definitely a lot of frustration in that first half. Obviously, you come into a big game like that, and, we've talked about it a little bit where, going all the way back to the state championship game last year and even the North Little Rock game at our place this year, and the moment being too big. And I didn't feel like in this game it was that. I mean, because like you said, to your point, you had opportunities. There was chances there. It wasn't like we were, like, just out of the game mentally. You guys seemed to be locked in. Just the shots weren't falling. Then you're giving up second chance opportunities way too often, third chance opportunities. And then on top of that, I think, what also really started to frustrate the guys, I know it frustrated us, was you weren't getting a lot of calls at times where it seemed like maybe you should. And there were some things that maybe should have happened, and I won't get you in trouble, and won't talk about that. But it was just, you could see as you went into the locker room, there was a dejected feeling. And obviously you're down 20, that happens. But more so than that, just frustration from everything that was going on, being in that moment and knowing that, the game just wasn't going the way you wanted it to go at that point.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, just the frustration with yourself, but then also, and I mean, I'm not going to call anybody out, but there are certain gyms, if you go to a place, certain people have better home court advantage than others. Just like certain teams have history of getting favor when it comes to that type of stuff, and certain coaches, they're able to do and say certain things that others aren't able to. And so it is frustrating. It's you're already mad and disappointed in the outcome, or the current outcome, and then when you put all that stuff on top of it, it's just like, well, here you go, just like we thought, just like it always is. Right. And so it's definitely frustrating.
And to your point, I mean, in the second half, I say, the game felt sluggish, but I think maybe some of that was you guys really ratcheted up the intensity defensively to start that second half, and to the point where really neither team was able to overly take control offensively, but we were able to go on a nice little 6-0 run, cut the game down to a 21-point deficit. But at that point, I mean, I think you're feeling pretty good because you've got the crowd getting back into the game. Some things are starting to go your way. But unfortunately, at the end of that 6-0 run, the frustrations finally boiled over to a tipping point with 3:46 left in the third as we had some fans come out of the stands. Words were exchanged between fans, players, and coaches. Craziness happened. And unfortunately, the game gets called in the third, and it was a Parkview victory by technicality, 53-32.
Yes, sir. You know, the last timeout we had before the game was called, I mean, just the energy and the positivity in the timeout. You know, the guys, come on, let's go. Let's make this run. You know, we can do it a little bit at a time, a little bit. You know, they had the right mindset, and you know they knew we're not going to get 20 points in 2 minutes. It's going to take time, but they had the, you know, just, you know, all the stuff. It's when you know they actually listen to you as a coach, because you know all the little stuff like we can't do it all in one possession. We got to get stops. You know, all those things that you want to hear. They, you know, the energy was there, and they were all spitting out those things, and so it was definitely. You felt like it was going to at least be a better half than the first half was.
And it, like to your point, it was headed that way. I thought, you know, I think Andy and I said on the broadcast, if you can get this thing to 12-15 here before you get to the end of the third, then you really feel like you got a chance.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like you got an opportunity to kind of chip away, continue to get at them, and really maybe frustrate them some by not letting them have so many easy opportunities inside. You know, obviously the video's going around of the synchronized dunk and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, again, you look back at little things that happen, and you go back even to that play, and everybody's made a big deal. I think Steve Sullivan posted it out saying he's never seen anything like it. Well, if you go back just before that, there was a loose ball that Carl gets kicked in the head that really leads to that, because the ball's on the floor. Carl gets kicked in the head. They were able to get the ball as he's going for it. That's what leads to that situation. And so, I mean, overall, you have just a lot of frustration as a team. But I thought you guys really handled that in the second half, at least up to where we got to the point where everything kind of happened. I thought you guys were doing a good job of really just making that push and making it a ball game to where you could say, look, we really made this run. We got back into it, and hopefully, you know, maybe get a victory. But if not, at least let your guys know, look, this was – you're going to play a bad half of basketball. Hopefully we got that out of our system now and not later.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that you know, you guys said that, and I agree. I was proud of the way they responded the second half.
So I don't want to spend too much more time on the incident. You and I talked about it before. We don't want to make a big deal out of it. It's been made a big enough deal. But I personally want to make a couple of points. Number one, from the outside, every media organization, social media personally, fans have referred to this incident as a brawl. I think even on the Hog Sports 24/7 message board, it was the Parkview Maumelle brawl. And what I can tell you is a brawl involves punches being thrown, and there was none of that. What we saw in that situation was your team come to the defense of their player, but more so to just get the player out of the situation. There was nothing between players, and that gets to my second point. What happened came down to adults verbally attacking kids on the floor and had nothing to do with student athletes fighting on the floor. And I think people need to understand that. This wasn't some massive brawl where the kids were going at each other. The kids battled hard on the
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Those look wonderful.
Yeah, they do. The kids battled hard on the floor and did a great job of playing. Now, obviously, we weren't in the position we wanted to be in score-wise, but the kids, you expect there to be talk between the players on the floor. Yeah. You expect that. I mean, you expect to have a little banter between you and players on the floor. The bench is gonna have banter back and forth. Those things happen in a basketball game. Competitors will have that happen. And so I just want to make sure that people understand this wasn't a situation, because too often, and I want to be careful how I say this, but too often Maumelle gets a bad perception in these situations. And in this scenario, I think it's unfair the way that some of the things have been written and some of the things have been said, and I think some things need to be kind of cleared up in what happened, because there's a lot of blame that can go around in these kind of things. And I think to my third point, as a parent, I 100% understand the want to defend your kids. Like, I get it. I've not been in that situation where my kid's competing on the floor and somebody asked me, well, how would you respond to that? Well, I really don't know until I'm in the situation. But what I'd hope is that as an adult, I'd have enough wherewithal to say, you know what, let's let the people down there handle it and not interject myself into it and make something more than it is. Because in that situation, you know, I think when certain fans came out of the stands, it created a bigger issue that could have been handled in the moment. I know that, you know, some things were asked of the officials to be done, and that wasn't even given really an opportunity, because at that point things had exploded. And so tough situation there. And then my fourth point is the media narrative has been one to place Maumelle in a negative light. And I want to say this, is we at Natural State Sports, we've had the privilege of covering Maumelle athletics for the better part of right at 2 years now. And in those 2 years, I've never seen our kids start an incident. Now, Maybe I've missed a thing or two. We're not down on the field. We don't hear what all gets said. But the fact is that we typically get a bad rep because we're caught responding. And in the old adage, the second one to act always gets caught, or always the one that gets in trouble. But the fact is, in this incident, things were being said by certain people that crossed the line of simple trash talking and banner, and that's where it's just things that shouldn't have happened and shouldn't have been said. So I want to make sure that that's cleared up, and that people understand that there's more to a story, but understand that you've got a really good group of kids out there on the floor who play hard, and the whole goal was to play a basketball game and enjoy a basketball game and see a very, very, very hyped game and really get to see a good Central Conference battle. And unfortunately, some of that was taken away from us because of certain things that happened. So,
yes, sir.
Now, they say every situation's a learning experience. I'm a firm believer of this. I like to self-teach myself a lot of things, and I'm curious, what's been the message to the team in terms of controlling their emotions and how they respond in situations like that in the future?
Well, one thing that was said was when we're in situations where
Extra plates.
Adults are acting like children, then you as children have to be the adult and not stoop to the adults level that's acting like that. We've talked a lot about collectively. I mean, they all know each other. They're all close. And we've talked about when you see your teammate getting a little frustrated or getting a little chippy or mouthy or whatever, step in, get them, pull them over, things like that. And as far as the incident, I did ask the official a few times, well prior to it, to ask him to put a stop to. I said, I'll handle my guy. You need to handle him.
Right.
So it was definitely brought to the attention, and I agree with you about the narrative. I mean, it's definitely one-sided,
Yeah.
and I understand people defend certain people for things of the past, but I mean, that was what was most disappointing for me and most aggravating for me. I mean, yes, it's unfortunate that what happened, and like you said, nothing really happened.
Right, exactly.
In reality, my kids that left the bench, they were wrong. They broke the rule. They got ejected. They had to serve a game suspension. All that's fine and well, and I agree with all of it. But at the same time, they helped prevent anything from happening. Like they went and got Nico and pulled him away and made sure that nothing did happen. And so I was extremely disappointed in the narrative that was put out there from all accounts that I read.
Well, and I want to say one more thing before we move on, because you bring up Nico, who's obviously at the center of this whole thing. I want to say, because I've seen some things it said, and Will even shared something with me from one of the 24/7 message boards where, because I speak out about Nico because I think Nico's a great kid. I think Nico, when you get to know Nico, you know what kind of kid he is. He really is a big teddy bear unless you just really make him mad, and he wears his emotions on his sleeve, and that's the kind of kid he is. But I got called Nico's personal protector, which, if Nico ever makes it to the big level, I'll happily take that job. But I say that just to say this. Nico gets a bad rap because of he does play so hard, and so often, especially on the football field, he's the best player out there. And in basketball, the problem is a guy like Nico takes a lot of unnecessary talk because of who he is. Because, one, they know he's going to respond because he's a competitor, and that doesn't mean he's responding negatively. It just means that he's going to do what he does as a competitor. But that doesn't make him a bad person. And to the point of the people that think Nico is this dirty player or wrong, I implore you to go back I wish you could hear some of the things that get said that he ignores, that he doesn't let get to him. That you go back, and I don't want to bring up too much of the BB situation, but the situation at BB where he went to the locker room, and a lot of that was directed at him, and he got out of the situation. And so I don't like the narrative that's come out about that. And so I just want to make sure that people understand. Look, you could say, yes, there's been some situations that have come up, things that I don't think Nico deserves any blame for. And sure, maybe he responded the way some of us wouldn't in that situation. This is an 18-year-old kid that's out there on the floor playing, competing. And so when adults and other people say stuff, at some point you're going to respond. And unfortunately, in this situation, it happened like it did. And now we can move on from it, though. And Nico can learn from it and continue to become a better player.
Yes, sir. And I can tell you from experience, back when I first got the head coaching job, I had a guy by the name of Kendall Donnerson, who, Kendall played football for Maumelle and basketball, went on and played 4 years of college, and then got drafted by the Packers, has spent some time on multiple NFL teams, but it was the exact same thing. Kendall had this reputation where he was just this bad guy, and he got a lot of technicals and all of this, but in reality, I mean, he would get technicals for clapping. Like, they would call something on him, he would get mad and clap. But the thing is, the same thing with Nico and Kendall, their similarities are they're bigger than most of the guys out there. They are competitors. They look intimidating just because of their physical presence, and they do wear their emotions on their face. And teams and guys, coaches, players, everybody knows you could talk to Kendall, you can talk to Nico, and they're going to say something back. But like you said, there's not any kid. I mean, Dexter's sitting right here. Dexter talks to kids. Colby talks to kids. Kids on the other teams, they talk. Like, trash talk happens during sports. It is what it is. But what happens is when these guys that are so much bigger and such a physical presence, in my opinion, the officials get nervous because they think something's going to happen, and so then they're quick to do something. I mean, a prime example is when we played at Little Rock Christian. I went back, I told you, I listened to their live stream, and they're commenting on how much they like seeing the competitiveness when Nico and Creed are going at it. And both of them are trash talking, and it's all fine. And, like, the announcers appreciate it. They knew nothing was getting out of hand, nothing was wrong. But then, one angry face or one thing that's said, angrily that looks intimidating, now all of a sudden it's a big problem. And the other thing is with those two guys, they're so much bigger than most of the people on the floor. They get fouled a lot and don't get calls. And it's just like the Shaq effect. People think, oh, well, he's bigger, so it didn't affect him. Well, a foul's a foul. Like, if he's fouled, you call the foul. And so when you have to deal with that throughout the entire game, every game, like, it gets to you, and so I understand their frustration, and I hate it for them, and I agree with you 100%. Kendall Darnishon was the same way. Nico's the same way. Fantastic, human beings, young men, off the floor, on the floor, but when they step across that line, they're the ultimate competitors, and they're out there to win, and they do play physical, but neither of them are dirty. I mean, we've played a lot of dirty kids that I can tell you about from certain schools that I'm not going to mention, but just because you're bigger than everybody doesn't mean you're dirty. I've seen a lot of the little small guys that try to take knees out and do all kinds of stuff like that.
Well, and to that point, I think something that also added to that narrative was, and this is not a slide at Nick Walters. I think Nick does a great job with some of the stuff he puts out, but the highlight clip that he put out, Will sent it to me immediately, and he said, I wish I wouldn't have seen this part because I didn't realize in the game why Nico was teed up early in the game. I knew there was something that happened between him and Coley, but I didn't see it. Well, of course, that clip looks like he just wells off and elbows him in the face or head. But if you go back and watch the actual exchange, when the play happened, Coley actually went out to him and threw his shoulder into him trying to go around him, and then Nico responded. And, again, it's the person who responds ends up getting caught, and in that situation, that's what happened. But, of course, the only thing that goes out in the media was the elbow. That's all anybody saw. So it's unfortunate that those things happen. But, again, we move on. We have the second half of conference play ahead of us. We got that started on Saturday, a little day delay. It seems like if we're going to play Jacksonville, it's got to be rescheduled at least a day apparently. But a big game on Saturday as Jacksonville came to the Hornets' Nest for a big matchup against a team that was sitting right there in that 3-4 spot. And really, if you lose 2 in a row there, you're suddenly in a tough situation because you're looking up really 3 games technically behind Parkview since you lost and 2 games in the loss column. And then now you're in a battle with Sylvan Hills and Jacksonville for the 2-3-4.
Yes, sir. And I thought our guys responded really well. We talked about just Tuesday's over, forget about it, let's move on. And I thought they did. They came out, they were locked in. Obviously being down a few guys, we said everybody's going to have to step up. Our one of the things that we've talked about from day one since, I got this job was just having that next man up philosophy. And we talk about all the time, if somebody's in foul trouble, if someone gets injured, now that COVID's a thing, if someone gets COVID, if someone's suspended for a game or whatever, like, you got to be ready, and that's why we practice. That's why, especially in non-conference, I play a lot of guys to get them that experience so that if something happens in conference play, and we need to call on you, it's not like you're shell shocked. You've been there before, and I thought they did a really good job of that.
One of those guys for sure is Jamal Summons, and I go back a little bit to the Parkview game. He was a little bit of a catalyst to start that 6-0 run in the second half because he got a big putback, big rebound putback, and it was the same early in this game against Jacksonville because early on I think we struggled a little bit from the field. 8 of our first 10 were from the free throw line, which was good to see, us hitting shots at the free throw line. But after the kind of the slow start offensively, it picked up, and more importantly, I thought the defense was extremely active in the first period for sure, only giving up 9 points, a 23-9 lead after the end of the first, and to the point Maul was very active inside. I think he had 4 of his 7 rebounds in the first period and 2 points on a good putback, but he was a very active piece to really kind of help get us over that hump and really push things and get the team going later in the first.
Yes, sir. Maul, he's had a lot of experience starting. He's had a lot of playing experience, over his career, and so, him getting the start Saturday, it was, just normal for him. It wasn't anything new, and he was up for the challenge. And I feel like we do a really good job playing defense when we play Jacksonville, because I know when we played over there, I felt it like it was our best defensive game we'd had all year. And Jacksonville they have a lot of movement, a lot of motion, a lot of screens in their offense, and, it requires a lot of communicating and being on the same page. Certain guys were switching off of on screen, certain guys were not, and so making sure everybody's locked in and doing that, that especially that first half, when they were being as deliberate as they were, the guy that Maul was guarding wasn't necessarily a perimeter shooting presence, so he was more, kind of hanging in the middle, but having to communicate everything, and he does a really good job of communicating, talking, letting everybody know, and so I was really proud of him for that.
So in the second quarter, we'd built a pretty good lead, 26-12, 14-point lead, which I think ended up being about our biggest lead of the night. And that was after a 3 by freshman Markalen Rochelle for his very first varsity bucket. Not a bad way to get your first varsity bucket, but Markalen's a kid who's been making some noise on the 9th grade team. I know I've heard this is the first time I got to see him, but after seeing him, I got to say, he looks the part. I mean, obviously, he'll make some strides as he continues to grow, gets in the weight room, but a kid that's probably got a pretty bright future ahead of him with the game of basketball.
Absolutely. Markalen's he's a fantastic kid. He, good grades, good student, good teammate. On the 9th grade team, he had several games where he scored 25, 30 a game. At his size, especially in the 9th grade, he could go inside and post people up, really good rebounder. But at the same time, his shooting ability, he can step out on the perimeter. I mean, a lot of teams, when they would press the 9th graders, he'd be the main ball handler, So he very skilled kid, soft-spoken, quiet. I think after a little while, the rest of this year being with the varsity, that he'll probably have to come out of his shell a little bit. But, he's a great kid, and I was really proud. Before I put him in, I said, how you feeling? And he was like, a little bit nervous. And I was like, dude, just play. I said, it ain't 9th grade where you got to do everything. I said, it's varsity. I said, they're going to do everything. You just knock down shots. And he was like, I got you, coach. I got you. And he did a good job of doing that. I think he went 2 for 3.
Yeah.
And then he had a couple of good defensive plays, and then there was one possession I remember where he got the rebound and kind of led the break and got somebody else a wide open layup, and so that was big, and I think he will definitely be a bright spot in our future.
Yeah. So Jacksonville found a little bit of scoring in the second. Christian Moore had hit a couple threes, and it seemed like, we talked about it. I talked with Monty too, Monty Patel over at Jacksonville. We talked a little bit. Christian was just now really coming. I mean, he'd been back a few games, but he really just now coming back when we played him the first time. And I thought he played way out of control. Obviously, he did his thing, but I thought he played a little out of control. And I thought in this one he felt his way into the game a little bit. And by the second, he was feeling it a little bit, was hitting some big shots. I know he nailed a big 3 right in Colby's face from kind of deep. So, but it was they were able to get some things going. And at the half, we were up 41-33.
Yes, sir. Christian is. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. His handles are top notch. He's cat quick and can shoot it from anywhere. That was most of our halftime speech was who's their primary offense, who's going to do all their scoring, where can he score from, and matter of fact, I told him, I was like, you guys got a pop quiz, and I asked them all those questions. They all, of course, got them right, and I was like, look, you finally made 100 on a test this year, so now let's go actually execute the game plan and know where he is, make sure we're doing this and that, and talked about the adjustments we were going to make, and so yeah, I don't know. He's a really good player, though.
Well, in the third, Jacksonville keep chipping away, and really we had a game in the third. It got down to a 1-point game a couple times. You guys never trailed. Jacksonville was never able to get over that hump, but your guys continued to battle. And it was, obviously what you're going to get out of Carl and Colby most every night. Those are two guys that are going to really do a lot for you, and you knew you were going to get a lot of them in this one with being shorthanded. But they hit some really clutch shots, and after a big three, or after the third, we had a 57-54 lead going into the final period.
Yes, sir. And I felt like, obviously not having Nico and KT, we got killed on the boards. And we knew that going in. But when you're shooting as well as those guys were, that definitely makes up for it, where you don't have to have as many offensive rebounds when the shots are going in. And I was really pleased, like we talked about with our defense in that first quarter. I felt like in the fourth quarter, and, I'm sure probably some of it's Christian making the decision, but I also felt like with some of the adjustments we made, I didn't feel like he did near as much in the fourth quarter, which kind of enabled us to stretch it back out after they got it to 1.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a big part of it.
Well, I think another big piece of that, too, is we opened the fourth with a 6-0 run to extend the lead to 9, and it was at that point that I thought we really got a good glimpse of the future. Going back to your point, that big rebound by Markalen, he would lead the break and get an assist to Riley. He'd hit a little jumper to get 2, and then on the next trip down the floor, another guy that we haven't seen a whole lot from, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about him in a second, but sophomore Cato Hunter would get the Hornets' nest rocking with a steal and a poster-worthy dunk.
Yes, sir. That's and I guess you saw afterwards KT Jr. with his.
Yeah.
So
I gotta say, yeah, KT, I'm glad you didn't break anything on the way down the stairs, but it was good to see KT from about 6 rows up just come flying down. He was excited for his teammate, and it was pretty cool to see Cato get that.
Well, and it's got to be pretty cool for your first ever high school varsity points to be a dunk,
yeah.
And then as a freshman for your first 6 points to be 2 3-pointers.
Exactly.
So that was good for both of them for sure.
And not just a dunk, but really, something that if we could find a good enough shot of it, we might be able to make him a little mini poster out of it because it was good. But I want to talk a little because Cato's a guy that, it's funny, earlier in the season, I was at Little Rock Christian. He gave me a hard time because I really didn't know who he was. I'm like, well, I've only seen you on the floor for like the El Dorado game or something, I think. And that was from way up at the top of the gym. So I've never really seen much of him. But I got to watch him a little bit in the O show with the JV. And I think I told Andy this before. I said, I have a feeling Cato, he's going to come out like foul. He'll get 5 fouls in like the first first quarter of the game because he plays so actively. But I thought, and I think I've heard you say this, but I think that one of the biggest differences for Cato in this game, and a lot from Markalen as well, was coming into it, they knew they didn't have to do too much. They're not. It's in a situation where you're the best guy on the floor. Now you're 1 of 5 on the floor, and you know that there's guys that are going to facilitate to make you better. And I thought he played his role really well. I thought he was really active. He's the guy that's got some of that similar length that you see from guys that are over at Parkview. He's a guy that's long arm, long lanky legs, but he can get in the way of things. And even on the dunk, it was a tip pass that he was able to get out of there and then really pick it up and drive down. And I'll be honest, after seeing him at the dunk contest in the O show, I thought, oh, no, this is not going to end well. And it ended a lot better than I thought it was going to.
I thought he was going to get hung. Now, I was yelling, dunk it, dunk it, dunk it, but I thought he was going to get hung. So I was glad to see it go in.
I think, and another point I'll get to, too, so there was a timeout by Jacksonville after that, but that wouldn't slow down the run either. Carl would step in front of another Jacksonville pass and have what looked to be another big dunk opportunity. I thought he was about to rear back forward and then, an intentional foul in that situation. But I thought what I liked about that situation, I didn't see it until I went back and was statting the game, and actually my wife pointed it out. Cato, when Carl went up for the shot and he got yanked down, and thankfully the player that got the intentional foul didn't try to throw him to the ground. There's nothing malicious. He just caught him, basically. But I know, obviously, in that situation, from Carl's scenario, you're frustrated. Like, you can get hurt on a play that, and that's why it's an intentional foul. But I thought what was really cool in that situation was Cato was the first one to Carl. Hey, we're good. Like, calm down. They got the call. Just let's go shoot 3. Let's go shoot 2 and get the ball. I thought that was pretty good to see of a sophomore really coming down and taking a leadership stance on his first time on the floor, too.
That is. That's big time, especially knowing Cato, because if roles were reversed, he wouldn't be the one to calm down quickly. So that was good for him to to be able to step in and do that.
And that was a big difference in the game, obviously. Carl would go to the stripe. He'd hit both free throws, and then Colby would nail a deep three, and suddenly that 3-point lead became a 14-point lead, and really never looked back from that point on. I think they were able to get as close as like 9 or 8 or 9, and then Markalen hits another big three there with just under a minute left to extend it back out to 12, and we were able to walk out with a big victory.
Yes, sir.
So 7-1 now in conference, 18-3 overall. Only blemish on the conference schedule, obviously, is the Parkview game, but now we've got a whole second half of conference play to look forward to. So looking forward to seeing where we can go the rest of the way.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to be joined by senior Dexter White.
Now trying to go quickly as he's got Daughtery. Daughtery's just got Jaden. He's going to stop. Three is up. Got it. Carl Daughtery Jr. knocks down the three. Daughtery met by Thompson. Daughtery just blows right by him all the way to the bucket by Carl Daughtery Jr. He got a foul call inside, man. Now Daughtery, he'll shoot the three this time. Got it. Carl Daughtery Jr. makes him pay on that one as he knocks down the three. He's going to try to break him down and drive. Daughtery going to go all the way again. A ton of contact. He got the bucket. Now got to get double. Now back up top as Clutch has it. Now Daughtery, nice pump fake shot is up and got it. Carl Daughtery Jr. just likes to make them when they're different. Back to a 4-point game. 4 minutes to go here in the third. Daughtery, he wants to drive. Daughtery stops. Elbow shot. Got it. Nice shot by Carl Daughtery Jr. as he knocks that one down. Daughtery looking to go to the left here around Thompson. He'll step back. Three is up. Got it. Carl Daughtery Jr. knocks down the three. Get it into Daughtery. Daughtery pump fake. Driving into the lane. Puts it up and floater goes for Carl Daughtery Jr. Daughtery deep flowers. They'll give it away to Pirtle. Pirtle's had a good game. Now it tips away. Good shot by Cato. Cato got the block, got the tip. Now Daughtery going to try to go all the way to the bucket. Carl Daughtery Jr. goes away as Daughtery sets. Daughtery trying to go around Thompson. He'll stop at the elbow. Shot is up. The corner to Summons. Summons inside to Daughtery. Daughtery turns up and good. Carl Daughtery Jr. gets the bucket back up.
So any great basketball coach will tell you that communication is absolutely key to winning ball games. If you don't communicate, you're not going to get the ball to the hoop. At Cornerstone, we feel the exact same way about the mortgage process. We have to communicate to you. We want you to know where you are every step of the way. We want to get you to the closing table with no stress, and that's a winning game plan to me.
With Cornerstone Home Lending, you always have the home court advantage. Visit loansbydio.com to get started.
And Riley thought about it, knocked it to the corner. Markalen, shot is up. Markalen Rochelle with his first varsity bucket. Or he's going to try to answer. No, long rebound, Rochelle. Nice rebound. Now quick pass to Cato. Now trying to go inside. They do get it in. Now trying to go up with his Brooks. That shot's up, no good. Fighting for it. Rochelle controls it. Markalen's got it. Rochelle pushing, gives it away to Wade. Wade stops. Shot is up and got it. Riley Wade shoots a long three. That's no good. Rebound knocked out of Wade's hand, and Markalen Rochelle comes away with it. He'll get it to Carl, get it across. He hesitates in the corner. Rochelle, he'll shoot another one. Three is up.
All right, welcome back to Hornets Live from American Pie Pizza. You guys be sure to come by and see our friends here at APP for lunch this week, located at 9709 Maumelle Boulevard. Now, joining Coach and I now is Hornet senior Dexter White. Dexter, welcome to your first experience on Hornets Live. Thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Pull that up just a little closer. There you go. Perfect. All right, so first off, let's just talk about your transition to playing here at Maumelle. What's it been like being a vital piece of what is a very talented group of guards?
I really have liked it. This whole season has been amazing. Like, I like playing with the people here. I love the coaching staff, all of them. It's just been awesome. I just love how we play. It's
been fun watching you grow and watch you on the floor from game one. Obviously, you know, it seems like each of you bring a little something different to the floor.
Yes,
what do you think your strengths are that you bring to this team?
Defense. That's my key role on the team. Come out every night, defend best I can, and a key player on their team, and try to limit them to the least amount of points as possible.
You do always seem to get the best guy. It may lead to a few extra fouls from time to time, but you definitely can see that you like to you take defense seriously, and that's big. You make an impact on the floor any way you can. Sometimes it doesn't always show up in the stat sheets. It's funny. We were talking. I think it was after the Jacksonville game last time, and then who we play after that. Whoever we played after that, I think you only scored 9 points in each of those games. But I think we both looked at each other like, I swear Dex did more than that. I swear he scored more than 9. But it wasn't just you only had 9 points on the scoreboard, but you had so many more. You impact the game in so many different ways, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
So you had a great start to the season. And then apparently I gave you just way too much credit, and because you found yourself in a little bit of a slump for a few games after I praised you on Twitter. Yeah. But since conference plays began, you've really been on a different level. What's been the difference in your play in that time?
I did fall in the slump, and then I know conference play, I need to step up because as being a starter, I had to defend and also get points to help the team win. So I just tried to get my mind right, focus, get in the gym more, and bring all I got.
So what's your favorite thing about playing the game of basketball?
I ain't got a lot of defense. I love defense.
The coach likes to hear that, I promise. You know that.
Right.
Coach, we're always preaching defense, I think, on this show. And post-games, pre-games, play defense. And I mean, to that point, obviously, I make this point a lot, obviously, with Jonesboro. They play really good defense, a team that's what you're going to get. And so that's something that you really have to start building towards as we get to postseason play, because you can score all you want, but if you're not defending well, you're going to get outscored potentially. And once you get to the tournament, you're going to be faced up with teams that are going to play defense. So really having that defensive mentality and a guy that can really push the rest of the team to really lock in defensively has got to be a big piece for this guy here as well.
Yes, sir.
So any particular player that you try to mold your game after, somebody you like watching that you try to emulate a little bit?
Defensive-wise, I like Drew Holiday. I like how he play defense. Yeah, I watch him a lot defensive-wise. But offensive player, my favorite player, John Morant.
That's a guy that's having a little good year. He's having a decent year.
Yeah,
so.
he is.
You're going to have to get on the Vertimax if you're going to play like him.
That was going to be my next question. So we've seen you get up a couple times. I think I've even been surprised by it.
He's afraid of heights during the game.
I'm telling you, I was so disappointed because you had an opportunity for a dunk at the end of this Jacksonville game.
Right.
And I thought for sure you were going to do it, and then you didn't.
I know.
When are we going to get to see a Dexter dunk?
It's coming. I promise you that. The last game, I was just like, I just had to get it in there just to finish the game all right, But I should have dunked it.
Yeah. Because I know what it takes. Andy over here, he had to call out a rod dunk, and he got a rod dunk in Morrilton.
Right.
So now we just need Andy to call out a Dex dunk, and we'll get it.
We need.
What game was it? There was a rebound that he got where he skied over everybody. It was right in front of our bench.
Game.
Was it Hall?
Yeah.
I mean, he was high enough he could have stuck his elbow in the rim if he wanted to.
No, matter of fact, it was. It's funny because I had messed around and I'd put my phone out on the table in front of us just to kind of get that one-on-one view of myself as I'm calling the games. I don't ever watch myself call a game, and that happened in that moment. I think I put that in that clip together. It was really cool. I think we were all just like, "Whoa! Where did that come from?"
I didn't even realize I got up there.
Yeah, you were way up there, way up there. It was impressive to see. So. But it's been fun watching you. It's been fun watching you learn and grow on the floor. And I know that hopefully we can find some opportunities for you at the next level to really get to continue to play and have that opportunity to keep going with your talents, because you're a talented kid. You should have some options at the next level.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate that.
And I will say, in addition to all that, while obviously college coaches will see what he can do, on film, he's a phenomenal human being. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I shouldn't say this, but he's probably my favorite kid on the team just because he's such a hard-working, very respectful kid that does whatever we ask. He, like you said, he gets in foul trouble, and so he does have to come out sometimes, but never a complaint, never a word, never a question. Why are you taking me out? He has the best attitude. He's completely team-first guy. And he's going to be an impact and help whatever program he's a part of. And he's been a tremendous impact and help for us this year.
And I think to that point, obviously, as we continue to look forward, I know a concern that maybe you had as we were hyping up the Parkview game wasn't the the hype of not showing up to the game, but more so the idea that if we hyped it up too much and we lost the game, that the rest of the season would look like a loss because you lost to this team. Now you've really got a battle. What's the mindset of the team from your perspective of keeping the team focused on what's ahead, which is really just Sylvan Hills tomorrow night?
We just it's all in the past. We took an L. We just keep going for it. Try to win every game from now on out and give our hardest. And I feel like we're going to bounce back and be able to come back and make us, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Basketball is a game of breaks anyway, a game of runs and a game of breaks. You got to have your breaks here and there. Sometimes you got to have some luck, and really, I think I might have said this towards the end of last year. I'm like, I think when we lost that Benton game, it was like, you really need to take an L somewhere in there just to get that feeling before you get into the tournament, and obviously it made a big difference because you had some battles in the tournament and before you got to that state championship game, and so obviously now you get that taste in your mouth of a loss. And is it any different too? And Coach, this can be for you as well, but because I kind of thought about this going back. You took the L to North Little Rock early in the season at our place. You don't even think about that at this point. You lose the game to Bentonville, again, a team that you're not going to see at all again. Do you take a loss, and I don't mean this in a way like a negative way, but do you take a loss to Parkview a little more personal, knowing that, hey, we're going to have to get them again? And not only we know we got to play them one more time, we may get to play them 2 more times if we get them in the tournament. So do you take that loss a little more personal to help yourself grow more to be a better player?
Absolutely. It's going to make your mindset different. You're going to come wanting it more. You're going to come – next time you play, you're going to want it 100% more. And it's like – that's it.
Yep. All right, well, Coach, let's talk about these next 2 games coming up. Should be a great week of games in the Hornets' Nest. Nice little stretch of games at home. And first will be a matchup with Sylvan Hills. And honestly, I'll say it. You don't have to say it. But this is a Bears team that's making a little bit of a surprising run to start conference play. They're currently sitting at 3rd, just 2 games behind us for 2nd in the Central.
Yes, sir. They did surprise me. I mean, I told their coach that. I said, I knew you guys would be competitive, but I didn't think you'd be 3rd. And Coach Davis and Coach Jackson are doing a great job over there, and they've got a lot of good pieces. They don't have any of the big name kids, but they remind me of a lot of the Maumelle teams we've had in the past, where you've got. They've got a great point guard in Trey Tippin. They've got a great kid that can shoot it in DeCarter Coleman. They've got a good inside guy. They've got that good forward guy that can score inside, can score outside, and in 15 Womack.
Yeah, Shamar Womack.
And so they've got a lot of good pieces, and as we saw last time, if you don't take them serious and you don't come to play, you're going to be in for it, for a long night. And so hopefully. The first time we played them got our attention, and we'll come a little more focused. I promise you right now our transition defense will be better. Our get-back guy over here, he's going to make sure that they don't shoot layup after layup. That first half when we played them there, they beat us at our game. They played faster than we did, and they got a lot of easy layups because of it. But we've made a lot of, changes and adjustments, and like I said, having certain guys assigned for getting back and things like that, we're going to slow that down for sure.
Now, to that point, in that last game, I'm correct in remembering this, Coach Davis wasn't available for that game, right?
Yes.
So they kind of got maybe a little bit away from their pace and how they normally like to play, and really played with our pace, which at the end of the game probably hurt them and really got into their legs. They had to go deeper than they wanted to, which is obviously what we want. But having Coach Davis on the bench this time, do you expect them to really be more adamant about trying to force the pace to be slower?
I don't know what to expect, just because they did have so much success running. I think it may be one of those things. They may come out early and try just to see, like, hey, can we get some easy buckets like we did the first time? If they aren't able to get those early, like if Dex and the other get-back guys do their job, then I think, they'll probably slow it down. When I talked to Coach Jackson after the game, he mentioned how they like to play fast compared to most teams. But he told me that he told them our fast isn't the same as Maumelle's fast. Like we can't do this for 4 quarters. You guys got to slow down. You can't play at their pace. And of course, me, I'm like, let's go. Like, you want to run, let's run. We got these guards that they will go, and so we're all for that. So I do honestly. I expect every team we're going to play in conference to try to play a slower pace than they did the first half. Because, even even BB and Benton, I mean, I know we'll talk about them next week and the week after, but even BB and Benton tried to run with this the first time, and I'm anticipating, and we'll be telling these guys everybody's going to try to slow it down, so just be prepared for it.
So after that, it'll be another matchup with Little Rock Christian. That was a game that was also really tightly contested, and we talked about it a little bit ago, a very physical matchup at their place. They're going to be coming into that one, no matter what happens this week, they're going to be coming into that game struggling a little bit. Currently 2-6 in conference play and almost in a must-win situation for the rest of the way out because they've nearly played themselves out of postseason contention at this point, sitting at 2-6. So you got to figure that they're going to come to the Hornets' Nest looking to get a win however they can.
Yes, sir. They, the teams like that, those are the ones that you're the most worried about because they have nothing to lose. I mean, every shot they put up, every defensive gamble they make, everything they do, when you're at the bottom or near the bottom, you got nothing to lose. And if they and with the talent they have, I mean. They've got everything you want. They've got good athletic guards. They got guards that can knock down shots. Of course, they got a big man inside that no one can stop. They've got all the pieces, and so at any point they could flip a switch and they could run off 5 or 6, these last 7 or whatever 6.
Yeah.
And be right there in the hunt and making the playoffs for sure.
Absolutely. So as we look across the landscape of the 5A Central here at the halfway point, only loss, of course, is Parkview. And I just talked about this a little bit with Dex, but coming into the game, the concern was, putting too much emphasis on that Parkview game and making it almost feel like the must-win and that the season's over if you lose that game. And how do you think your team has responded? Obviously, the Jacksonville game, we saw what we were able to do, but putting that loss in the rearview mirror and knowing you still got everything to play for ahead of you.
Yes, sir. And just reading, like at practice today and things like that, I think they've forgotten about Tuesday. They've moved on. They understand we can't go back and change it. All we can do is look forward. But we have to take care of business if we want to have a chance, at a possible conference title or 1 seed or whatever, split of the conference title. And if even if we're not going to get that, we still want to make sure we secure the 2 seed. And that's the thing. And I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you, in the last, whatever it is, 2 or 3 weeks from now, whenever it's the last week, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing. That game's not going to matter because, right. I mean, if you remember when we had the district tournament last year, we went over there and got our butts kicked. Yep. And then we turn around and make a run and end up in the state finals, So we definitely, our goal is what postseason and what we do in the postseason. And I've been blessed to have the players and coaching staff that we've had to have the success we've had at this program. And unfortunately, sometimes it makes it where all that matters is what you do in the postseason. And it makes it hard to enjoy, and appreciate the wins along the way because really none of that matters. And so I'll be preaching the same thing for the next 3 weeks that, yes, we want to win, we want to get better, we want to learn from this, and we want to be playing our best basketball going into the postseason.
Absolutely. So, Dex, one more question because I think we have nicknames for most everybody else. So you don't have to give it to me tonight unless you just got one, but we got to come up with a nickname at least by tomorrow night because, I can't just keep saying Dex White on the when we do the starting 5. So we got to come up with something between now and then. I mean, dunking Dex or something if you can finally throw one down, but that may coach just said no, don't give him that. So, but so you got to think of something because I'm at a loss. Normally we can come up with something pretty quick, but I'm at a loss.
I ain't got one right now, but I'll get some thought. No. What do you think?
Can't give himself a nickname. Well, but he can lead us in the right direction. Because there's nothing, we can't be the Gnat. We already came up with the good one this year, so we're giving KT the Gnat. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. All right. Well, Coach, that's going to do it for Hornets Live tonight. I want to say once again thanks to Tamsy and her crew here at American Pie Pizza. Please get out and support our –
I have one more thing.
Okay, one more thing.
If he goes on a slump after this, he's not allowed to be player of the game. He's not allowed to come to this show. He's not allowed to get anything, no recognition until after the season. Then you can pump him up as much as you want.
It ain't going to happen.
But if he goes in a slump,
it's not gonna happen.
Then we're done.
Yeah, no, not happening.
It's not happening.
He's locked in right now, so I'm with you. Not going to happen. So, but thanks to our folks here at American Pie Pizza for being such great supporters of Maumelle Hornet Athletics. Dex, thanks for joining us tonight.
Appreciate y'all for having me.
See, I told you it wasn't that bad. We won't do anything. Everybody comes here the first time they get nervous and they freak out. I mean, we had Kelby Forte here after he got like 400 pancakes and he was still nervous. So can't worry about it. It's all easy, no big deal. So, but we hope to see all of you guys tomorrow night in the Hornets Nest. Big student section again. Obviously Saturday a little smaller crowd because of the day and everything going on, having to move it, but expect a good crowd tomorrow for that Sylvan Hills game and looking forward to it. So make sure everybody joins us tomorrow night in a packed Hornets Nest, and we hopefully get another victory in conference play.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right.